Yo, what's up, guys? So today, doing the intro to my world, but actual for real this time. So this video, as y'all can tell by the title, is gonna be a read along, okay? And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put up the pages and talk over it, so you guys can I guess, read along, okay? Because I know people like to have the story read to them. And yeah, that's basically what we're gonna do today. So before we start, I was gonna put like AI visuals, and it was looking mad good and all right, but I was like, nah, like I ain't, nah, it just didn't sit right with me. So for that fact, it will be just the words, because if these words itself can't do nothing, that basically opposes everything that I'm basically standing for. And if these words right here simply can take me to animation and pictures and all that later, then so be it. We're gonna have it that way, but we're not gonna use AI. I feel it's a little disingenuous to natural artwork. And plus, there's way more planned. AI can't do what I want to do. You know what I mean? It's smart, but it ain't that smart. It's not better than humans. You know what I mean? So, we just gonna start off, Uh, Title Tales of Romanji the Warrior. It's a trilogy, okay? 3 books. So, this is the first, alright? And shoot, just enjoy, guys. Right. This is basically first novel, sparked it all, where hood meets fantasy, an embodiment of my writing philosophy, okay? Dedicated to my younger self and all those like him, bro. Hope you're doing good, little bro. And yeah, this for you. I bet. Let's get it. We're gonna start. See ya.
Chapter 1. Romanji came down the stairs sponging his hair. His body looked like it was going to rip through his black tee, and he wore blue jeans. He saw Trey, who had a slim and fit, sitting on the couch, as usual, laid back, sagging his blue jeans, wearing a white tank top and cornrows to top it off. Romanji came and put the sponge down on the brown table in front of them. He then extended his arms to Trey, hinting about something. "What's up, Trey? You watching WWE?" he said. Romanji and Trey live in a neighborhood where no one really rules over them. The people themselves rule it. The people decided schools should not be regulated for them. So Trey was up early watching a WWE episode from last night. Trey looked up at Romanji and smiled. He shook his head and gave Romanji what he was looking for, which was a hug. "You and your hugs, bro," Trey said. He sat back down and answered his obvious question. "Yeah, I'm watching WWE. You can't see the screen or something?" The two had the same brown skin, dark brown hair, dark brown eyes. Just Romanji's eyes were bigger and softer, and Trey's were smaller and sharp. Romanji had a fit build with a bigger upper body, while Trey had a very skinny one, but well defined all over.
Instead of watching that lame stuff, you try and play some COD? Said Romanji, sitting next to him, grabbing one of the controllers that was on the brown table in front of them. Bro, you love that game. You're a tryhard. I don't like playing with you, Trey complained. You just mad I clap you every single time we play. Just get better at the game, man. Ramanji laughed. Dude, you literally sweat while playing the game, he said. That ain't normal, gang. Don't be mad because I'm good. Come on, let's play. Ramanji switched the game and sat down beside him. Yo, what you trying to do? Trey yelled, mad that he switched the game. Put on the gloves, Ramanji replied, also standing up. What's up then? What's up? Come outside, Trey said. Let's go then. A little girl screamed out, I'm telling mommy. They both continued arguing anyway. While the little girl ran to their room, their mom came out of her room in her sleeping gown and bonnet. She demanded both of them to calm down or she would give it to them without holding back. Both boys kept going, not even hearing her for real. So Romanji's mom, from the kitchen, lifted them up off the floor, and the two floated there in the air, unable to escape the force pulling them upwards. Their mom smashed their head up against the roof, then threw them down onto the ground. They both grunted while struggling to get back up. On their way up, they see again Romanji's mother lifting other objects, targeting them. So they decide to leave the house immediately but peacefully. Sorry, Mom, they both said. And leave those boxing gloves, their mother shouted. Mom tripping, huh? Trey said. Maybe because you were up all night on the game, she couldn't sleep. They both laughed it off. Romanji grabbed his green bike and Trey grabbed his black bike, and they began riding through the neighborhood like nothing had happened, dodging all the potholes in the street. The air smelled bad as always. The fire to dispose of garbage and to keep people warm filled the air with smoke. It's been like this since they could remember it, so it never fazed them. Only when they went to the neighboring town. They lived in a very large neighborhood, but the type where everyone knows everyone. It consisted of so many different ages of people, but the large majority of was kids lived in a neighborhood called the Alleys. That was their neighborhood. Outside was always gloomy and cloudy, and the air always carried a bad vibe. But Trey and Ramonji and the other kids never let the sadness that filled the air get them down. They biked through the kids, playing double dutch with the clothing lines used to dry clothes. The two rode around the neighborhood, greeting everyone. And about on every other block, they would see white bags over people who died of hunger. There were never any beggars because no one could provide anything to them. Crime rate was very low, almost non existent, right? Within their neighborhood to the point all death was natural death. There was only one store, and that was right in the middle of the neighborhood called Stolen Goods. That was literally what it was. Everything from food, clothes, and even cars are all stolen from other places to bring here. Even the bikes they were riding. This is how they survived. They paid for these things through services such as cleaning the neighborhood, joining the gang, helping bury bodies, and building houses. Whatever service to help out the community, it was all run by Big Homie and his gang. They arrived at the Stolen Goods parking lot, the letter S dangling off the building. "How y'all youngins doing?" a big man said, raising his fist at them. "All good," Trey and Romanji responded by sending the gesture back at him. "I remember when he taught us how to ride these bikes," Trey said, referring to the big man who greeted them. "It was Big Homie. He was the one and only gang in the hood, and he was carrying firearms to defend against constant intruders. He and his gang also owned stolen goods. They were somewhat a government for the people. The bullets didn't have effects a lot of time on the enemies they fought, but he did what he could to protect the neighborhood. Big Homie waved for them to come here, and so they did. Romanji and Trey dapped up the gang they knew since they were kids. "Let me show y'all some," Big Homie said, walking towards his black pickup truck. He opened a large black box in front of them. It was an arsenal of guns, including sniper and bazooka. Romanji and Trey were astonished. This was the greatest power mechanism they've ever seen in real life. "Yeah," they all nodded. Big Homie told them, "If anybody try y'all got me. Heard?" "Heard," they repeated. Trey searched through stolen goods for his grandma's meds. It wasn't there, so Romanji and Trey biked to the pharmacy, which they had to go a little outside of the alleys, to the nearby neighborhood where the people always gave them dirty looks. This other neighborhood had clean roads, nice houses with no leaks in the roofs, cars roaming about. Romanji and Trey didn't have money, but the two had a plan. The two walked through the neighborhood, looking at the difference in scenery. Romanji was upset that they had it this nice, while they were only minutes away, separated by a grass field. They once asked Big Homie why this was, but for some reason he just told them that was something they would later understand. As far as Romanji knew, both neighborhoods didn't have powers like that, so he questioned what other thing made them different. The two had a plan to get the meds. Outside the pharmacy, Romanji fixed up his sponged up hair, making sure it looked nice and crispy. He fondled his dusty black tee that showed his natural physique and pulled up his blue jeans. Trey looked at him and laughed. "Who you trying to look good for?" "Man, I do my thing, you do yours," Romanji gave a playful shrug. Trey sagged his baggy jeans, which were Romanji's jeans, and he walked in. He walked in the pharmacy, gave the cashier a head nod, and went on walking throughout the store with a swagger like he owned the place. Romanji walked into the pharmacy and greeted the clerk with a big smile on his face, while Trey looked for the meds. Romanji asked the pharmacist if he could have the pills they were looking for. He just mentioned some random ones he saw behind the pharmacist. "Yeah," the blonde-haired, blue-eyed man said, with his beer belly poking out, almost about ripped through his button shirt. "It'll cost you, though," he added. "Sorry, man. I don't have any money," Romanji said. "Then leave. Why are you in my store?" he shouted, and he got aggressive so quickly. Romanji replied, "Why don't you just share? We don't have a pharmacy, and you all look rich enough. Go find your own way to make money. I worked hard for this stuff." He saw Trey ready with a bag of pills. "Let's go," Trey yelled. See, there you go. You and your people stealing again. Trey stopped before Romanji could reach him. Our people, he said, shouting back, pulling out a crossbar from his pants. Romanji didn't even know how he had that crossbar there. He was shocked. Romanji tried calming him down, but Trey continued, banging his crossbar along the aisles and shelves. And you guys think just because you have a little bit of power and money, y'all better? I should beat yo. The pharmacist stood scared while Romanji held back Trey. He told the pharmacist, it doesn't have to be like this. We're just trying to survive, just like you guys. Finally, Romanji pushed Trey out the store. Then they both began running to their bikes. No one chased them. They were sort of known for this. And no one wanted trouble with Big Homie. When they reached their bikes, they both looked at each other and shook their heads in disgust, looking back at the pharmacy. They both hated that place. They both hated that whole place. I love you, Romanji, you know that? Trey said as they rode slowly down the empty pothill filled roads of their neighborhood. I love you too, Trey. We brothers. Romanji declared, giving Trey a fist bump. As they held the fist bump, Trey added, ain't no breaking the bond of brotherhood, something they constantly reminded each other of. Big Homie told them since they were young to remind each other of their love for one another. Then they decided to head to Grandma's to see how she was doing for a while. She lived in their hood, but on the edge of it. Her little house was calmly surrounded by vines. It looked abandoned, but nope, when they went inside, she was always there. They entertained her while she slowly rocked in her rocking chair. Grandma couldn't move, and she was barely living, but she has been in this state since they could remember. Now that they were older, their mom made them take responsibility over her. She lost a lot of senses, but it was still their grandma, so they did what they can for her. And their grandma groaned after taking her pills, which she almost choked on, almost always choked on. The grandma raised her hands over the boys, hinting for them to come closer. Were you boys stealing again? The boys nodded their heads yes. It's a never-ending cycle, she said, letting out a huge sigh. She would never get past this. She would then doze off, and Romanji and Trey would sneak out. But today, she continued talking. She asked them if they knew about the urban treasury. What's that? Romanji asked. Never heard of nothing like that, Trey added. So the grandma told them to listen up. She told them how long ago, how long ago that power was given to the world, and that this land, the alleys, was touched by power, but not the people. Cap, Trey said, you see this dirty place? Ain't no power touch this. It wasn't always like that, she said. But Trey and Mom have powers, Romanji questioned. These two are rare cases, stories for another time. But there was a time when this was the most beautiful and original place on earth. This is the true timeline before the world went into chaos, she added. She continued to tell him when power shone across the world, this was the only place that stayed the same, while everywhere else changed drastically. The light that touched the land here only enhanced it. She talked about how the flowers looked magical and sparkly, how their scent filled the air, and the sunbeams in the morning were marvelous. She talked about the glowing nights, how the trees were like beautiful lamps, each leaf and branch glowing bright neon with many different colors, how the bark of the trees had veins of neon colors flowing through it, from starry northern lights, natural fireworks to beautiful sunsets. So what happened? How did it turn out like this? Romanji asked. The grandma replied, telling them that they've gained so much attention to the point people with little to no power migrated here to avoid discrimination everywhere else, because power equaled status. She began coughing. She hasn't talked this much ever before, but she continued. When the people learned we had the most valuable, rarest currency, which was the dollar, they raided our place to get it. The land and our dollar was all we had to compete with the outside world. Us, the people, decided to put all the dollars in a safe and bury it. But every little while, there would be a raid so awful and hideous, they destroying and persecuting us and removing the little bit of glory we did have, that the power of nature found a dislike for it. Trey stopped her. So what happened to the dollar? Whatever that is. Did y'all give it all away? The ground began to sob. We had no other choice. Now we are left with the long sunset as a sign of pity to show our downfall. Don't cry, Grandma, Trey said, patting her on the head. They think they can do us like that. It seems like everyone just likes doing us dirty. We're going to change that, Romanji said, rubbing Grandma's hand. Trey side-eyed Romanji without saying anything, but they later left the house. When they left the house, the sunset had started. Their sunset was always very long. It took hours to set, but It took hours to set, and it was always the most beautiful part of the day. The sun would be extra large at the time of sunset, large and up close, yet very pleasing to the eyes, and the temperature would be at its finest. On their way back, halfway between their mom's house and their grandma's house, they heard a loud sound of an elephant. An elephant? Romanji said, looking around him. Man, ain't no way. Barely any squirrels here. Probably just Big Homie and got something new. They continued walking. Same sound rang again, this time so loud the ground under them literally began to shake. The two looked around the sunset and nothing. Man, Train groaned. Is that? The elephant sounded again, even louder. Manji and Trey had to hold each other up. They looked up at the sky, and it was the elephant. You could see the jewelry shining from the ground. It was soaring with gray wings that matched his skin. Ain't no way, bro, Ramanji yelled fearfully. The elephant soared in circles around their neighborhood, blocking the whole sunset every lap. So light, dark. It continued, sounding its horn. We must be tripping, right, Ramanji? Their eyes were stuck on the elephant. Nah, man, it's real. They both thought about the story their grandma just told them. They've only heard about stuff like this, but this was real. Things began flying off the elephant's back in the distance. When they landed, they saw a human, a gray skin with different types of weapons in their hands, half dressed with foreign skirts on, and all their skin looked like cement, rough. They began falling all around them, some even having tusks like elephants, small and large. I gotta go check on Grandma, Trey said, running the other way. Trey! Romanji yelled, not wanting him to leave, nor did he want to follow because he wanted to go check on his mom and Layla. Trey! He yelled again. Tell Big Homie to send someone and some guns my way. Go home. Ramaji groaned. Bruh. So he ran that way, towards his house and stolen goods. Soon gunshots sounded. Big Homie and them were filling the streets already with their AKs and ARs. The gray-skinned people were just multiplying in number, dropping down all over the hood. Romanji was running down the street, and his leg was grabbed, and he tripped. He looked around him, and no one was there, but he did see a guy in the distance. It was a gray guy with a trunk. Romanji thought to himself, no way his trunk stretched from there. He tried to get back up, but he sounded his trunk, and his trunk stretched, and it wrapped around Romanji's legs. It was sturdy and thick. Romanji punched it repeatedly. The force was too strong. His clothes ripped along the pavement as they dragged him. He was right below the man. Romanji made eye contact with him, and his heart stopped. The guy above him wasn't human. The trunk let go. Then Romanji crawled away slowly, but the trunk slapped him across the face. Romanji screamed, and it felt like his cheek was on fire. He felt a certain amount of disrespect from that hit, especially because the guy was laughing. Oh, hell nah, Romanji said. He grabbed the trunk of the guy and pulled it towards him and punched him like 3 times until he was knocked out. Then Romanji continued home, but there was no escaping the battlefield around him. He saw some of the gang members dead with stab wounds. His eyes became teary. Ain't no way this was real. Then he saw the gray guys dead, but no blood. They were just laying there like Play-Doh. He thought this is what the raids must have been like during Grandma's time. Trey arrived back at his grandma's, yelling at her, telling her that there is a raid going on. Trey asked her what it was about, since they didn't have any more dollars. I'm so sorry, she murmured. What you mean, Grandma? She began crying once again. Trey laid his head on her shoulder. It's all my fault they came back. How? Grandma continued crying. How? Trey yelled. They must have sensed my dollar trees growing. Trey raised an eyebrow in surprise. Why didn't you just let the dollars go? Because, my child, it was our sense of pride, glory. I was afraid if we lost it, every single one, then maybe the sun wouldn't rise again. The raid should have been done. They didn't have any more dollars. There was blood in the streets, little kids screaming, and people running everywhere, trying to escape these barbarians. His mind was spinning. It was just too much of everything. He ran even faster, avoiding the dead bodies, ducking the bullets. He just wanted to get home. He forgot about what Trey told him, and he ran past stolen goods. He was almost home. He could see it until the elephant from above suddenly dropped down. No gliding or anything, straight down. Romanji was underneath the huge elephant. It basically destroyed the street and a couple houses surrounding it. Romanji's heart was on fire. Come on, he whispered to himself, trying not to cry. Angry he was in this position. Angry he was in this position. Romanji crawled out from under the elephant quietly, looking up at the huge thing. Then a man stood above it, long gray hair, gray skin, but he looked well put together with his king-like outfit on. He looked different from the gray guy from earlier. This guy was definitely human, the leader, Romanji thought. Romanji made eye contact with him, and he tried to take off after that. The guy jumped down onto Romanji, kicking him down, and asked him where the dollars were. We don't have none, Romanji said, asserting himself. Like like I'll believe that. He grabbed Romanji's neck with one hand and began choking him. Hey! Big homie shouted. Hands off my youngin'. Big homie got his bazooka ready, and the guy wasn't letting go of Romanji still. Big homie shot the bazooka at the elephant. It tore the skin off of it, and it began to bleed, and it whimpered. The man grew large elephant ears to cover himself and Romanji from the impact. Before you go, he said to his elephant, let it rain. After hearing that, the elephant began gurgling water, and all Romanji could do was watch, and he hated this feeling. He couldn't do anything as much as he tried to swing. This guy was too strong. He still tried kicking and punching. The elephant finished gurgling and shot a water beam at Big Homie. Big Homie flew back. Romanji couldn't see him anymore. Romanji's voice broke through his closed throat and yelled, Big Homie! Then the beam continued through about 5 houses, destroying them all. Please stop, please. The guy only squeezed harder. The tears from Ranji's eye rolled onto the guy's arm. Then the elephant disappeared, turning to magical dust, and all the dust returned back to the man in front of him. So where is it? He continued. Man, I don't know, Romanji coughed up. Being powerless never bothered him, but in this moment, he wished he had all the power in the world. He stopped kicking and punching. He simply couldn't anymore. Well, what a sad day to be you. The guy squeezed harder, and Romanji thought about how weak he was, and there was nothing he could do. Even though his tears were falling, his fists and teeth were still clenched. He was so angry, he just wanted to breathe. Thoughts about protecting his people around him came across his mind. How could he do that when his right to breathe was at some random guy's mercy? He hated that feeling. For all he knew, now his mom, sister, grandma, and Trey, everyone was dead. The squeeze felt like forever. The right side of his chest around his birthmark began hurting as the guy squeezed harder. It was vibrating from his vein. He felt a surge of energy from it. Then something cracked. The guy's arm cracked, letting go of Romanji. Romanji took this chance to give him a punch. Trey appeared with his nose leaking. That was you? Romanji asked, referring to the guy's arm. Yeah, some slight, they said, brushing it off, panting. The man got up and he began fighting back against Romanji and Trey. And it was quite easy, 2v1. The guy wasn't all that fast, so Trey was able to hit him multiple times, giving Romanji clear open chances that really hurt the dude. And with each punch, he felt his birthmark pumping energy to him. Romanji got over top of him and began punching him repeatedly across the face, again and again. Yeah, keep going, Jay, Trey yelled. Beat his ass. Romanji did again and again, blood over his fist and on the ground, and some splattered on his. The guy spat blood, and then Romanji stopped and got off him. Why you stop? Trey yelled. I ain't trying to kill him. Man, that's exactly what we want, Trey began shouting. You think he was thinking like that while doing all this? Especially to you? Man, kill this dude. Romanji got up off the guy. I don't know, taking a human life. I don't have that right. Talking about right now? You talking about rights now? You're too kind. Thinking like that ain't gonna get you nowhere, bro. While talking, the guy on the floor grew some tucks straight like swords. Romanji and Trey moved out the way, but it still sliced them both across the neck. See that? Trey pointed out. He barely alive and he still wants to take us out. Romanji looked speechless. Still, man, Trey took a deep breath and shook his head in disappointment. He took out his crossbar and broke the two tusks, hitting them off. Then he sat over the guy and began to beat him with the crossbar over his head. He just beat him over and over and over again. The blood was splattering on Trey's face. The guys laid there motionless, but Trey kept going, Trey's eyes sharp as can be. It was as if he didn't care at all. Romanji didn't stop him, he just looked away. Trey finally got up off him, and when he did, all the other savages disappeared as well, into dust. The guy's head had a huge dent in it. He was dead for sure. Trey tapped on Romanji, who was still looking away. It's done now, he said with his sharp, cold eyes. Then slowly his eyes became softer and he looked down. Trey muttered very softly in a cold voice for Romanji to hear. Sometimes you gotta take life to protect one. The adrenaline wore off and Romanji began to fall. Trey held him up. I got you. Romanji's weight clearly slowed them down. Romanji apologized for it. You good, bro. How you holding up after, refers refers to the killing of the guy. Trey stopped for a second. His face somewhat went into a dazed state. Romanji asked, you good? Trey shrugged it off, shook his head. It was for us, for family. So yeah, I'm good. Romanji still looked at him, concerned. He could see the turmoil across his face. I'm good, bro. Trust. Trey continued walking home, holding up Romanji.